Hey, welcome to the Midlife Freedom Podcast. This is your host, Lindsay DeSwart. Welcome back. Well, it's been a hot minute, let's be honest. So I wanted to come in today and just record a quick episode. First of all, to say happy Thanksgiving and to remind us all, how grateful we can be for where we are in our life right now, no matter how good, bad, ugly, beautiful it looks. Just there's always something to be grateful for. So happy Thanksgiving to all my American friends. And then also, just as we go into sort of December's always a bit funny with podcasting. So I will be, dipping in and out. But I'm recording episodes at the moment ready for January, which is really exciting. So today's episode was a bit of a reflection because last week my kids came over, or my sons came over. So if you are with me, obviously you know that I now live in England with my daughter, and I've got two older sons who are early 20s, and they live in Canada and still live with my ex. And so what's happened since we broke up as a family, it's been really interesting to see, obviously, the influences that I've had on my daughter versus the influences that my older sons have now become accustomed to, shall I say. So some of it's obviously my ex. Some of it is more friends, more family friends, more their friends in Canada as they're growing up. They're spending time with different influences. Anyway, that's kind of by the by. What was really interesting, they came over last week and I had some really nice chats with both of the boys. But one of the things about their level of ambition really made me think about decisions I've made in my life. And chances are you're going to be also a woman in your 50s who's made some decisions. Some will have worked out better than others because by the time you get to your 50s, if you've made every single good decision, well, I applaud you. And quite frankly, I'm a bit jealous. But what it really made me think about is how many of our decisions are kind of head-based versus heart-based. But then also on top of that, how many are wise for one area of our life, but we then backtrack with another area of our life. So let me explain what I mean. So obviously my boys in their 20s, they are very much about, wanting to secure their financial future, wanting to be all about investment and making money. And they're very much go, 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 which I understand that from a male energy and also from the age that they're at. They're all about building their future and ambition. And I totally get it, of course. And then looking back on some of the decisions I made, and it made me realise that probably four of the biggest decisions I reckon I made were financially an absolute disaster. And I wish I could be honest with you and say, oh no, we just bounced back. But guess what? They weren't actually. So the first decision, which is quite funny, is way, way, way back. When I was 17, I got the opportunity to go to private school for a couple of years and to a boarding school. And there was something so unique about that school. And obviously I wasn't paying for it when I was 17. My mum and dad paid for that, but that will have really made an impact on them financially because neither of my sisters had gone through that. So I was really, really lucky to go through that. However, academically, I didn't do brilliantly well out of it. But socially and emotionally, the going to that school, those 2 years at that school, fundamentally changed the course of my life. And I am still friends with the people I went to school with at that age. And I'm grateful beyond. I absolutely loved going to that school. And there are so many things about it that just stick with me to this day as if it was yesterday. Really, really fond memories of the people I met at that school. Now, the funny thing is, when we had the opportunity we sent two of our kids to a private school before we left Canada. And it was kind of just before COVID. And again, financially, did that make sense? No, not really. Because could they have got education anywhere else? Yeah, of course they could. But what I really loved about that school was the exposure they had to other people, like to different, let's just say different social group. And they're still some of their best friends of friends that they made at that school. But also the experience we had. I finally felt like I was part of a community when the kids were at that school because the parents were really involved. There were so many activities that the kids were doing. I mean, they travelled when they were at school. They were really privileged with some of the activities they got to experience. So did it make sense financially? No. Did it shape who they are today? Absolutely. And I'm not saying that a private school is better than a public school or anything like that. But it's one of those things that you look back and you think, I am so pleased that I was able to do that. Yes, we could have invested the money elsewhere. But would they have had the same life experience, and would they be who they are today? And would I have been who I am today without going to that school, meeting those people, having those experiences? Probably not. So there's the first one. And I think anybody who's paid private school fees, you will have gone through the questioning in your head, obviously, before you paid them, but then also afterwards you'd gone, was it worth it? For me, my private school education, and probably, I think my parents would say the same thing, my mum would say the same thing, my private school education was worth every single penny that we paid, just because of the experience. It was an absolute life experience. I loved it. Anyway, so that's the school thing. Second financial decision, which is funny because I made an Instagram post about it today, and in there I said, I actually fell out with my financial coach, who I've talked about in the past, and she's a fantastic woman, but she didn't have kids. And I actually fell out with her about this a little bit, because her view of having kids was it was just the worst financial decision you could make. And you got to be really careful to protect yourself in the long run from your kids actually creating financial disaster in your life. And I know that sounds really harsh, but that's obviously the way I've perceived it, because I remember being so taken aback at the way she talked about how bad a financial decision having kids is. Now, if you look at it on paper in black and white, I get it. But it was also, having my kids was one of the best decisions I've ever made, because it completely changed the course of my life. And I absolutely love being a mum to these three incredible human beings. And so again, did it change my financial course? Yeah, of course it did. Would I have had it any other way? No, not a chance. And I'm sure you probably felt exactly the same. So that was the second financial decision. But it was quite funny, because I decided not to renew with Anne's course, because I just thought, actually, I've got to work with somebody who doesn't have this perspective on kids, because it's not healthy for me, and it doesn't serve me, And like any coach, if you're working with any coach, you've got to find some fundamental things that that they support your beliefs. And being a mum and having kids was, in my perspective, totally life enhancing. And I needed a coach that, would support those beliefs. Anyway, so that was number 2, having kids. Not great financial decision. And yet there's nothing on earth. You couldn't have paid me all the money in the world to not have them. And then the third decision was buying a horse. Now, anybody could probably tell you, yeah, of course, why would you buy a horse if it was a financial decision? They're basically hay burners, and they just eat up money, and you can just see those zeros just clocking up. And again, would I have changed it? No, because having my horse, Penny, let's refer to her name, Penny. I actually called her at some stage Pennies from Heaven. And obviously my bank account was not looking anything like heaven. But what Penny taught me was so much courage. And she also allowed me to learn horse whispering. Because when I bought her, and when I saw her originally and all the rest of it, she was a fan, just exactly what I was looking for. Just, a couple of things that needed amending, and then we'd all be good. Anyway, somehow, and, horse owners and experts will all have their opinions on, what happened, what went wrong, what went right. Somehow, when we started working together, everything just went from bad to worse, to the point that I was advised to get rid of her. She was dangerous, etc. Anyway, I knew my commitment at a soul level with her was way deeper, because of the way I'd been guided when I was doing, so quick backtrack, when I was doing my shamanic training, in all of my visions, I kept seeing this spirit horse, and I was like, okay, what's going on? And I knew I'd always loved horses when I was younger, but it was always riding horses. So then when I was doing all of these visualizations and meditations and visions and journeying and all the stuff that you do in shamanic work, this horse kept appearing. And so I said, I actually need to get a horse. And as the way it happened and the way the universe had it all laid out for me, I wasn't just going to get a regular riding horse that would be easy and, would just allow me to carry on in my comfort zone. Oh, no, I wish. Well, I don't wish, actually, in hindsight. Anyway, so, there were a number of occasions I definitely called in help and, in fact, met some of my dearest friends because I really needed help with Penny. There were times where she was rearing over my head and I was terrified, genuinely terrified, lying awake at night going, what the hell have I done? How am I going to work with this? I see no end. I feel guilty. Everything I wanted has gone wrong. So uncomfortable. Anyway, so certainly for the first year, I think I saw her every single day. Even though I couldn't ride her, I was practicing my techniques, practicing my Reiki, practicing my healing, even to the point I couldn't get in the stable with her. I had to do it from the outside of the stable. First of all, in fact, I had to do it from the outside on the other side of a field because I couldn't get anywhere near her. And yet that was how I learned to do my energy work with her. And I worked with her every single day to the point that when I finally made the decision to divorce and come back to England, funnily enough, I had sort of, let's say, a conversation. Obviously, I'm doing air quotes in the air here. When I had a conversation with her, I knew that our time was up. I knew that our contract, our soul contract, if you want to put it that way, our soul contract was up. And I got a real sense of ease from her. And I genuinely believe, because the people I then sold her onto, although it was all well and good at the beginning, they discovered or they found or they thought there were health issues. And in fact, they actually put her down. And I genuinely believe that the time that Penny and I had together, although it was hairy at the beginning, our end days that we had together were probably some of her happiest, apart from obviously when she was bred and, skipping around the field with her family horses. Anyway, so she did something to me that I don't know that anybody else or anything else could have challenged me that far. And yet I still kept coming back because I knew that there was more to learn. And when she was colicking, I stayed with her all night pretty much. And again, had conversations with her and just sent her energy healing and did everything I can because it felt like the person I had become and the relationship we had, I felt like our relationship, I guess, was about healing, and it was healing me. God, I'm getting emotional. Our relationship was about healing her and healing me. So getting back on track, was it a good financial decision? No, it wasn't, but it totally changed me as a person. And I genuinely believe that she was there for me just as much as I was there for her. And I probably would never buy another horse again because I know the commitment, and also knowing my soul contract and kind of, what I'm here to do in the world. There is no way I'd get like an easy riding horse that, we'd all just show up, tack up and go. And quite frankly, I've barely ridden since I've had Penny, and certainly since I've been doing this work, just because that's not my relationship with horses now. My relationship with horses is to stand with them and let them release and, help them heal and help their owners heal. So she completely, she changed my life. Good financial decision? No. Emotional decision? Wouldn't have changed it. So that's 3. And then the 4th, which might be one that you would guess, of course, is divorce. And just before we get into that final section, that number 4, I'd like to take a little advert break. Speaking of financial decisions, I've now got a new feature in the show notes of Buy Me a Coffee. So if you're enjoying the show, please drop down to the show notes and have a look. And if you'd like to, please do feel free to buy me a coffee or to rate and review the show, because I would be super grateful. And now, back to number 4. Divorce and my country move. Financially, is it a good decision? No, absolutely not. And I actually remember my finance coach, Anne, when she got divorced, I remember her saying, she said, no, half of my net worth has just walked out the door. And I absolutely understand that, because if you're looking at everything through financial decisions, divorce is a really bad idea generally. I mean, unless you've been planning for it for years, and you've got everything, well and truly lined up. Most people take a hell of a hit when you get divorced, financially and emotionally. And you've really got to think, is it worth it? And then, of course, the country move on top of that. Well, by the time I'd moved here, because obviously I took a break in work and I needed to then just, kind of get myself together emotionally and rebuilding my life and all the rest of it, that had a real hit financially. So the whole thing, that whole big decision, it's changed the course of my life and it's made me who I am today. And I'm really excited about the future, whereas I was a little bit lost as to whether there was a future and what it even looked like. And but financially, I'm still coming back from it. Absolutely, still bouncing back, and set me back. Of course, it set me back. But I wanted to share this with you because after having a conversation with my son, I actually obviously really reflected on it and went, well, which financial decisions would I have made that could have set me in a different position now? And of course, there were loads. But one of those could have been like, I could have done a corporate job. I could have done a corporate job and I could have done the 9 to 5. And then I'd have missed out on things like, spending or prioritizing time with my kids and, well, all the other stuff, like all the training that I've done, all the life coaching, all of the public speaking, all of the networking, all of the stuff that's made me who I am and has brought real joy to my life. And of course, I don't know what that would have looked like, but I knew that in the corporate jobs I had early on, it was never something that made me feel like I was winning. I didn't feel like I was growing or giving it my best. I never felt like I was thriving or shining. And then as soon as I moved out of that and started living a life that I was passionate about and felt like it had purpose, like, starting being a fitness trainer and then going through training to be a coach and qualifying as a coach, and then being a mum and, eventually going through to doing spiritual healing and horse whispering. All of them have brought so much joy, but none of them necessarily were a great financial decision. So in this time of life, I just wanted to share that with you. I hope that gives you some perspective, especially as we're coming to the year end. Just as you maybe look back over the year, I would encourage you to have some kind of reflection over the year, because so much is changing right now and it's changing so fast. And we're in the position where, the kids are off. We've got so many different choices and opportunities in front of us that it seems like a good idea that you actually reflect on what you've done so far, what you're happy with, what you're grateful for, and also what you still want to do, because next year is only going to go faster. And so maybe next year's a really good opportunity to say, start off the year saying, actually, yeah, this is what I really want to do. My, every fibre of my being, my heart and my soul are driving me in this direction. So hopefully this fairly short episode, although it's kicking on a bit, I'll just be finishing in a sec, don't worry. Hopefully this episode gives you a slightly different perspective if you are questioning some of your decisions, or if you're actually celebrating some of your decisions. At the end of the day, you've got to celebrate who you are today. And as always, if there's any way that I can help you or support you in moving forward and creating a new chapter, then, just message me and look at the show notes. All of the information's in there. You can DM me, you can Instagram Midlife Freedom Angel, you can email me direct, whichever. But anyway, I'd love to hear from you, of course, and I really hope this is helpful. And so, happy Thanksgiving, and I will see you on the next episode, and I look forward to it. Take care. Loads of love. Bye.